today we're releasing a new report that for the first time ever takes a comprehensive look at the New York State executive budget from the perspective of how it will impact on people of color and communities of color. Many different organizations that advocate for a specific issue or a specific constituency have come together today to urge New York State legislators to consider how the choices that they make around the budget on cuts and spending will impact on all communities of color as a whole.
Thank you again for having this and for your report. I want to talk a little bit about, as everyone has resonated here, the question of where our students are going, our minorities are going, hinges greatly on what we're able to provide for them in terms of education. So I want to say to you, aside from everything that has been said here, I'm a counselor at Queens College. I also run a program for paraprofessionals that want to become teachers, very often low income. Most of our students, 73% of the students at CUNY are people of color, and every time that something like this happens, where there's a threat to the budget of services that decrease, the people that are most impacted are our students, people of color. I also want to say that in addition to that, the students that are coming to us, not only are they having the problems of, not being able to do what they need because of economic hardships or whatever, but if when they come to our doors, they can't get the services that they need to help them to succeed, such as counselors, full-time faculties, all the necessary things that are necessary for students to do well. And in addition to that, the services such as psychological counselors, because they're coming to us with those kind of problems. It's no longer just the student that's saying, I'm coming here, I'm going to study, I need to do my 12 credits. Now they are proposing 15 credits. Again, students that may have to find a job someplace else. So it's very difficult. I could say to you, our students are losing jobs, they're facing foreclosures, now tuition hikes, which, believe me when I tell you, if that happens, we're going to lose again a large number of our students because they simply can't afford it. They just can't. So we urge everybody here, to be a foot soldier, get up there, talk to your legislators, go local, go, here, wherever it is that you need to go, but don't let somebody else do the work this time. The important thing is that we all have to join on this because we need to support a move for a fair tax structure. That is the only way that we're going to do it because it is a matter of revenue. This fiscal stimulus, the stimulus package is going to do a little bit, and then we're right back where we started, right? So we need revenue increases, and the best way to do it is by supporting some kind of legislation and fair share tax.
My name is Guillermo Perez. I am the president of the Albany Capital District chapter of the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement. It's called LACLA. I just want to say a few things about LACLA. LACLA is a national organization. It's affiliated with the AFL-CIO. There are local chapters all over the country, and our chapter here in Albany represents Albany Capital District, but we also advocate at the state level and especially focus on issues for Latinos in upstate New York. And I'm basically here today to try to reinforce what's already been said. Our mission as LACLA is to advocate for Latino working families. We really applaud Citizen Action for doing this report. For those of us who work in these areas, we know this is actually nothing new or surprising. And it's stuff that, at least as far as the labor movement's concerned in LACLA, our feeling is the greatest poverty reduction program in the world is for working people to join a union. And we hope to be talking a lot more about that in the future with reform at the federal level. And this is especially true for communities of color, too. The union difference for Latinos and people of color and women in terms of what they get in the way of wages and benefits and pensions when they join a union is dramatic. When we talk about bridging a gap, being part of the labor movement is probably the most effective way to begin to bridge that gap. That said, it's not enough. There is a role for government in all of this, and there's especially a role for the state of New York. Our feeling is that, a budget is a moral statement. It says something about what your values are. And we're really deeply, deeply alarmed by the values reflected in this executive budget. We think they're out of whack. We think they're totally wrong. We think they're bad for working people. And, of course, we especially think they're terrible for communities of color. There's an expression, I'm probably getting it wrong, but basically, you know, when the economy gets a cold, our communities get pneumonia. The economy right now, I'd say, has pneumonia. So our communities are comatose, okay? This is a terrible, terrible time for working families all over the country, in New York, and especially for families of color. So we would applaud Citizen Action for taking this on. We would remind this governor to remember where you came from and how you got here. It was an agenda for reform, progressive reform, and we don't see any evidence of that agenda being advanced by this budget. So we would urge him again to remember where he came from and how he got there. And also another friendly reminder, leaders either lead or they get out of the way. And he better start leading or else he's going to have to get out of the way. Thank you.
This budget will impact the people that can least afford to receive these cuts. And the fair share tax proposal is important because in the state budget there are billions and billions of dollars of incentives and tax credits that actually go to the people who already have a disproportionate amount of money in the state. Everyone says that we want to get kids off the street, right? Everyone says that. Well, this budget reduces money to get kids off the street.
This August makes 4 years since Hurricane Katrina ravaged the Gulf Coast region, Mississippi, and New Orleans. And we all watched from television screens as we saw mostly people of color, lower income individuals, as the streets were flooded. And we characterize it, rightly so, as neglect and incompetence. And although here in New York State, our streets are not flooded with water, many urban communities are flooded with despair. And although our government might not be incompetent, we can say that our government has been neglecting communities of color. The city level, state level, and the federal level. Urban communities, as these champions here this morning have already articulated, have been getting less money for public schools, less money for recreational opportunities, the disparities in health care. Every crucial area of community life, we receive less funding than other communities do. We're saying that we have to do something to end the despair that's flooding our neighborhoods. And part of that is government no longer neglecting those communities.